Welcome to After Hours, OAN's long-form interview show where Washington newsmakers take off their ties, go beyond the sound bites, relax, and tell you their stories. I'm John Hines, OAN's D.C. Bureau Chief, Congressional Correspondent, and for better or worse, your Sherpa on this journey. Well, if you want to hear from someone who lived through the 1979 Iranian Revolution, or from someone whose brother was among the 30,000 political prisoners killed in the 1988 massacre, or if you want to understand what it takes to escape a repressive regime and build a new life in America, we have the guest for you. Dr. Majid Sadeghpour is a human rights activist and political director for the Organization of Iranian American Communities. He watched his brother be arrested and later executed for opposing the Iranian regime. Fearing he would be next, his family helped him escape Iran alone and start a new life in the United States. Majid, let's start at the beginning. What do you remember about the day your brother was arrested?
I think he had gone to, along with a group of his friends, to write slogans supporting democracy on the streets of Iran, on the walls.
And this is what year?
Late 1980, early 1981, I believe.
Mm-hmm. So this was shortly after
summer of 1981.
Yeah, shortly after the revolution.
Shortly after, yes.
Yeah.
About a year and a half after.
And so he was going to, was this a seditious activity?
No, it was writing a slogan, pro-democracy, a slogan on the streets of, on a wall in a residential area in Iran. You'll see it at the moment during the protests that occurred in January. You see similar activities by protesters writing.
But he must have known that was risky, right?
Yes.
I mean, that was an act of protest. That was defying the revolution.
Peaceful protest, yes.
Yeah, but it was defying the revolution, right?
It was confronting the growing oppression, and a lot of youth were involved in speaking their minds.
Speaking their minds. So he was writing on a wall, and he apparently got arrested. Somebody, yes. Was it a witness who put the finger on him, or did somebody call the police and say there's a guy here? And yeah. What happened?
Great question. I think what is happening at the moment right now in Iran is actually very synonymous to what happened at the time. The regime, at the time the Iran-Iraq war was going on, there was a conflict externally. Mm-hmm. So the regime had enacted many supposed judiciary or really prosecutory actions, including creating revolutionary courts to oppress dissent, and also created on the streets that beginning versions of the IRGC had regular patrols on neighborhoods throughout, some hidden, some in cars. And so they were beginning that infrastructure. And it is that infrastructure that identified him. And they are using that very tactic at the moment, using the cover of the conflict with the United States.
So what do? Do they have just spies everywhere?
Yes.
Or what?
Yes, that is correct. It's a police state without any leaks.
So somebody sees you walking down the street, and this guy, your brother, yes. Writes something on a wall.
Yes.
And is it like a shopkeeper who calls the IRGC or calls somebody or calls the police, or what happens?
Right.
Or
well, over the 45 years, really from inception, but more so today, with the advent of technology, over 45 years of appeasement by Western nations, particularly Europeans, the regime built a very sophisticated intelligence operation.
More sophisticated than the Shah?
Without a doubt.
Is it worse than the Shah?
I think it is worse than the Shah. It's much more advanced than the Shah. It is
because the Shah this is the problem with the Shah, right? The reason he lost, the reason there was revolution was because he was collecting people, and they would go into prison and they would never emerge, right?
That is correct. Torture chambers, secret police,
Was that the reason he lost his grip on power?
I think people of Iran wanted a voice in the form of government that they have, and they didn't want somebody claiming legitimacy that was not elected.
And they didn't
that's
want
the case with the Ayatollahs too.
They didn't want people disappearing in the middle of the night, never coming back.
That is correct. And torture chambers. That remember, the Evin prison, Gohardasht prisons, all the prisons that Ayatollahs are using today were built during the Shah.
They were built by the Shah.
Yes.
Isn't that the great irony? I mean, you guys had a revolution, and you got worse than what you had.
That is correct. I mean, in large part because the Shah.
How did that happen?
Well, because the Shah had destroyed all democratic institutions in the country.
I know.
The closest
so there was nothing. There was no infrastructure. There was no governmental. There was no free infrastructure. Governmental, democratic infrastructure was all gone.
Not only infrastructure, but also simple institutions, books that people can learn about democracy, and organizations were hunted. Organizations like People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran, MEK, and other organizations. All of their members were in jail. The people
by the Shah.
By the Shah. And even after Khomeini was allowed into Iran, it was weeks before the MEK members or other secular political prisoners were let out of jail. Mm-hmm. And one wonders how that could be possible, that the Iranian army would not be dissolved, and that the Khomeini would be allowed to come into the country and build this network using the mosques, while the people who actually fought against the Shah to weaken it so he falls were still kept in jail while Khomeini was sitting and organizing. And that void is in large part the reason why these guys were able to usurp power. Then they created an external conflict with Iraq, essentially prodded it to occur, and it did, and used that as a cover to consolidate power. And very similar infrastructure of external war is being played out to try to keep the population at the moment as we speak.
Was the Shah, he thought that he was loved by the people of Iran, wasn't he? Didn't he say that?
Most dictators seem to believe that.
The Ayatollahs originally helped the CIA put the Shah in power.
Without a doubt. The kings and the monarchs kings and the Ayatollahs tend to work together. And throughout history, that's been the case and has been the case in Iran for sure.
How did the split? How did the split develop then?
I think they never did. I think you had a fascist in Khomeini who was a great opportunist, and I think with the prodding and help from outside force, was essentially given enough legitimacy to enter Iran.
Who was the Ayatollah? Where did he come from? Why was he in France?
He had some differences. He, like I said, he's a fascist. He wanted rule. He wanted more power. He wanted more.
So the Shah
kicked
kicked him out?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
But he went to Iraq. There he was fomenting fundamentalism, wrote a book, and causing problem for the Shiite establishment in Iraq. And so essentially he was kicked out of Iraq into Paris, but Shah made sure nothing happened to him. In fact,
the Shah made sure nothing happened?
Of course, yes, of course. There is historical record. The Shah's diplomats instructed the French to make sure he's protected, and that's where he was. He was protected.
Why would the Shah have protected this person?
I think he did not want. The Shah of Iran had great relationship with the Ayatollahs in Iran. He imprisoned some who wanted a secular form of government, but he also had great relationship with the fundamentalists. Fundamentalists, after all, were a significant part of how he ended up in power. The coup d'etat, the U.S.-backed coup d'etat, would have never succeeded without the help of Ayatollah Kashani and others in Iran.
So if he had a good relationship with the Shah, why did he exile the Shah? If the Shah had a good relationship with the Ayatollah Khomeini, the original Ayatollah, the one everybody remembers, why did he exile him?
Yeah, he had relationship with the Ayatollahs, the establishment of the clerical network in Iran, in cities of Qom and Mashhad and others. But Khomeini was an outlier. Even within the Shiite establishment, he was an outlier in Iran. He created noise, and the Shah didn't like that. He went to Iraq, and he still became an outlier. And the Shiite establishment there didn't like him there either.
But what you're saying, I mean, according to what you're saying, the Shah then told the French to take care of him and protect him.
Yes.
Even though the Shah didn't necessarily like him.
That is correct.
And didn't want anything to do with him.
That he was still an Ayatollah. He fooled.
So what is it about the Shah that made him respect this Ayatollah that he didn't like?
I think he didn't want problems at home.
he didn't want to spark protests and revolution
Perhaps.
because...
I can't speak for the Shah at the time, but perhaps.